This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, May 5th. Welcome to Africa 54. We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. We begin in East Africa. Thousands of girls in several African countries skip school every month because they cannot afford sanitary pads. In Kenya, one lawyer is working to keep teenage girls in school by supplying the menstrual health products that their families often can't afford. Brenda Mulinya has our report.
Fanny Kwega and her team of volunteers make their way into an informal school in the heart of Kibera, one of East Africa's largest slums. They are bringing 3 months' worth of menstrual health supplies, a much-needed relief for these teenage girls outside Nairobi. School head Elizabeth Manyasa says the supplies help keep the girls in class.
They find it very difficult to get sanitary towels, and when they are experiencing menstruation period, most of them stay at home. So when we look at the deaths, we can easily tell that this child is out of school because of his menstrual cycle.
Getting menstrual hygiene products is a challenge for the girls in these informal settlements where many people earn the equivalent of $1 or $2 a day. Evaline Odinga is a mother of 3. Her 15-year-old daughter has just started her menses.
She tells me that she wants money to buy pads. I am a hawker. Sometimes I have only earned 100 shillings. I need to buy vegetables and water. If I give her 50 shillings to buy towels, I feel like I am making a loss.
The care packages can mean the difference between a family having a meal and a girl retaining her dignity.
The reason we are doing this is because there is a dire need in the country.
Kwega says as many as 70% of Kenyan girls from disadvantaged communities lack regular access to menstrual health products despite public spending.
There's a program in government where all these kids need to have free sanitary towels every month, but they don't get.
Kwega's My Flow Foundation has helped more than 2,000 girls over the last year. Contributors to the attorney's non-profit group hope to give young women the confidence of having a year's worth of pads so as not to disrupt their education. The foundation also arranges mentorship programs for economically disadvantaged young women, support for teen mothers, and pro bono legal services for victims of gender-based violence. Brenda Mulinya for VOA News, Nairobi.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has wrapped up her 2-day official state visit to Kenya, honoring an invitation by Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta. I spoke to VOA Swahili reporter Kennedy Wandera, and he begins by highlighting key issues discussed by the two East African presidents.
The discussions between President Kenyatta and President Samia Suluhu are centered on 7 areas. The first area is deepening integration, because President Samia Suluhu said that it is incumbent upon the two countries to deepen these ties to enhance this particular integration, because a number of years back, there have been a number of restrictions, and Kenya and Tanzania have not been speaking on the same latitude. So she says her coming to Tanzania is a new dawn for the two countries.
What's the focus of her separate meeting with Nairobi's business people?
The focus of that particular meeting is to let Kenya traders or Kenya businessmen and women that there is a new opportunity in Tanzania to go and invest. That there is new opportunity in Kenya for Tanzanian business women and men to come and invest. Therefore, it's going to be centered around issues that need deep integration, especially where the two countries can be able to deepen those opportunities on investment. Like she said before, that Kenya is the 5th investment destination for Tanzania, bringing about more than 20,000 jobs to Tanzanians. And therefore, this is an opportunity that the two countries can be able to collaborate more and make sure that at least they can be able to use this as an opportunity to enrich business between the two countries.
Did you get a sense, Ken, that the meeting between the two presidents also, in a way, addressed harmonizing business and trade within the East African region?
Absolutely. This is one area that President Uhuru Kenyatta talked about, saying that being the chair for the East Africa community, there is greater need for the member states to do business with each other. And therefore, doing business with Tanzania is very significant because it allows member states, members of Kenya to go to Tanzania and work there, as well from the citizens of Tanzania to come to Kenya to work. And therefore, there is greater need for these particular business opportunities to be harmonized and see people crossing over to do business.
What are you hearing from analysts about the significance of President Samia's visit to Kenya politically and economically?
I've talked to political analysts and one economic expert on the visit of President Samia Suluhu to Kenya. On the political front, they argue that President Samia Suluhu coming to Kenya perhaps could be a solution, like her name, to Kenyan problems that have been facing the ruling party, where the president and his deputy president have not been seen in public on government engagements. And on the economic side, they say this is a new dawn for Kenya and Tanzania because there have been a lot of restrictions, economic restrictions between Kenya and Tanzania. And therefore, her coming to Nairobi is a great opportunity for the two countries to engage and to deepen the economic ties that is going to help Kenya and Tanzania to collaborate more and bring more opportunities closer to its people.
We know that Tanzania's COVID-19 acknowledgement was non-existent during the late Magufuli's presidency. Did President Samia talk about her approach to tackle the pandemic in Tanzania?
What was evident and what has brought a lot of excitement in Kenya is how she came in the country with her whole delegation masked up, and throughout the meetings of President Kenyatta, they were all masked up. But she said in her statement that there is greater need for Kenya and Tanzania to set aside a committee, especially of ministers, health ministers, who will come together and address these challenges that are normally brought about by COVID-19 restrictions. Especially, there was a time when Kenya closed its borders with Tanzania because of COVID-19. And therefore, she said that we don't need to see any kind of restrictions between Kenya and Tanzania because of COVID-19. And therefore, the meeting of these particular ministers can be able to come up with the protocols so that it becomes easy for Tanzanians to cross over to Kenya and Kenyans cross over to Tanzania without any COVID-related complications.
That was VOA Swahili reporter Kennedy Wandera. We'll have more on Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan's address to Kenya's parliament and businesses tomorrow. World Trade Organization members will assess on Wednesday signs of progress in talks on a proposal by South Africa and India to waive patent rights on COVID-19 vaccines in order to boost supply to developing countries. Meanwhile, health experts fear that a combination of concerns over blood clots, comments by some leaders, and mixed messages over expiry dates have fueled so-called vaccine hesitancy across Africa. Neka Chile reports.
When Dr. Edith Serum received her coronavirus vaccine at the Nairobi hospital where she works, nurses joked she might start speaking a foreign language.
I told everybody who I was working with that I had gotten the vaccine, and of course you get these comments.
Some got the AstraZeneca shot after watching her closely for side effects. Others in the Kenyan capital are still refusing. Africa has already had to battle to secure a relatively small number of COVID-19 vaccines. Now, health experts fear so-called vaccine hesitancy is slowing rollouts across the continent.
There's lots of people who are still holding out on the vaccine. Quite a number of people are still waiting for something to show up. A lot of people are still very apprehensive about the side effects.
Vaccine hesitancy is a global phenomenon. France and the United States are struggling with it. skepticism is on the rise in some Asian countries, such as Japan. In Africa, health experts say a combination of warnings about possible rare blood clots from the AstraZeneca shot, the rubbishing of vaccines by some leaders, and mixed messages over expiry dates have all contributed. The World Health Organization and Africa CDC have repeatedly advised that the benefits of the AstraZeneca vaccine outweigh the risk. Nevertheless, the rollouts in some countries have been slow. Take Kenya as an example. The government began vaccinating 400,000 frontline health staff and other essential workers in early March, with more than 1 million AstraZeneca vaccines it had received. By April 25th, according to the Health Ministry data, only 152,700 health workers had been inoculated. Chika, Offor is the founder of the Vaccine Network for Disease Control Advocacy Group in Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Unfortunately, immediately they started distributing the vaccines. This whole story of blood clots and all sorts of things came up concerning the vaccines. And then to make it even worse, countries like UK, Germany, and France now decided to halt, the use of the vaccines, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. So that now gave us a lot of problem. That behavior in itself caused a lot of problem in Nigeria.
The continent's most populous nation, Nigeria, received nearly 4 million AstraZeneca shots on March 2nd. By April 23rd, just over 1.15 million doses had been administered. At that pace, it will take nearly a decade to vaccinate Nigeria's adult population, and until mid-August to use those doses from its first consignment. The shots will expire on July 9th, a government official said.
That was Neka Chile of Reuters reporting. India has opened its immunization drive to all adults as it reels under a catastrophic second wave of the novel coronavirus pandemic. But a shortage of vaccines in the country, often called a vaccine powerhouse, means inoculating a significant part of the 1.4 billion population is still a distant goal. Anjana Pasricha reports.
This is the most coveted jab in India as it reels under a ferocious second wave of the novel coronavirus pandemic. But although the inoculation drive for COVID-19 has been expanded to all above 18 years of age, vaccine shortages are hobbling the program.
The situation is extremely grim. I mean, of course, there aren't any words that can explain the situation is extremely grim. The system is at a brink of collapse, and that's the reason why we try to get vaccinated as early as possible.
But some states say they cannot cover the 18-plus age group. They are even turning away older people as vaccine stockpiles fall short of demand. India, the world's largest vaccine producer, was relying on domestically produced doses. But the approximately 70 million shots being produced a month cannot cater to its massive needs.
And if you take the 18 to 44 age group, who are the new entrants into the program, we are talking about 595 million people. So we are talking about 1.2 billion doses, right? Because everybody requires 2 doses of the vaccine. So in a sense, it's a huge ask. And our vaccine stocks currently do not measure up anywhere near that.
The government has stepped up efforts to get vaccines from overseas. Sputnik 5 doses arrived from Russia this week. Efforts are also on to accelerate domestic manufacturing. But it could take months to plug the shortfalls. Experts say India failed to stockpile enough vaccines as it prematurely declared victory against the pandemic during a lull in infections. It sent about 65 million doses to other countries as part of a vaccine diplomacy push.
I think it was sort of factored in their minds that we will not have to deal with the second wave, and therefore we could have a fairly measured, steady, graduated vaccination program which can flow in steps. And that is why we even felt we had the luxury of sending vaccines abroad to about 80 countries.
The sluggish rollout meant the country was largely unprotected when the second wave struck. About 2% of the population has been fully inoculated, while around 10% have received 1 dose. Now, fear overhangs the worst-hit cities like New Delhi, where hospitals and crematoriums are overwhelmed.
I deleted the social media apps for about a week in the middle because I just couldn't take it. Every time you open Twitter and everything, it's full of that. But then I had to get back because I realized that a lot of people are, seeking help on that platform. And if I could be of any help, then I need to be available. So it's very anxious. I mean, the times are very anxious.
That anxiety will remain in a country waging an ongoing battle for hospital beds, drugs and oxygen. Anjana Pasricha for VOA News, Mumbai.
Turkey was recently heralded as one of the most successful nations in containing the spread of COVID-19, prompting the government to ease controls. But a surge in infections coupled with vaccine shortages has forced a U-turn, with the country now under its most severe lockdown, as Dorian Jones reports for VOA from Istanbul.
Istanbul is back in lockdown, along with the rest of the country, this time for nearly 3 weeks and with the strictest controls in place. Police vigilantly enforce a curfew. Only essential work and short shopping trips are permitted. Speaking just before the lockdown, this shop owner said the new restrictions have dealt a hammer blow.
We had just started recently compensating for the losses of last year. We had just started some kind of normalisation with summer arriving, with people going back to shopping. But, unfortunately, we will go through this again, and this will push us way back.
Previous lockdowns and modern hospital facilities have brought down the infection rate, prompting the government to ease controls earlier this year. An emboldened Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan even held a series of party rallies across the country. Within weeks, infections have increased 5-fold to become the highest in Europe.
Then, immediately afterwards, they decided to have a more open situation for the society. Of course, we understand because there are economic difficulties for all the people in the country. And the government cannot support people. So poverty is immense.
Adding to Turkey's woes, the health minister said delays in vaccine deliveries from China have stalled the country's vaccination program. But Ankara announced Russia would start delivering its Sputnik V vaccine later this month. However, with no financial support announced for the latest lockdown, anti-poverty groups warn many people are desperate.
They are panic. Okay, they call us what we will do. We don't have any food, we don't have clean water, and we have bills, we cannot pay the rent. Really panic, but usually that panic is about the food, about the baby nappy.
Government officials hope this latest lockdown can save the economy, most importantly, the key tourism industry, with the peak season fast approaching. But for now, many in Istanbul are relying on food handouts and hoping that this lockdown will be the last. Dorian Jones, VOA News, Istanbul.
Foreign ministers of the G7 group of industrialized nations are meeting in London this week, with climate change, Russia and China among the topics up for discussion. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
Face to face for the first time in 2 years, G7 foreign ministers remained socially distanced as they met in London Tuesday. There is a full agenda for the two-day summit, including the G7's relations with Russia, which was ejected from the group after its forceful annexation of Crimea in 2014. G7 ministers condemned Moscow's recent deployment of troops on Ukraine's border.
If Russia chooses to act recklessly or aggressively, we'll respond. But we're not looking to escalate. We would prefer to have a more stable, more predictable relationship.
China is also high on the agenda.
It is not our purpose to try to contain China or to hold China down. What we are trying to do is to uphold the international rules-based order.
Chinese state media accused the United States Tuesday of, in its words, deliberately hyping up the so-called China threat. the G7 is upholding the principles enshrined at its foundation in 1975, says analyst John Kirton.
To protect within its own members and promote globally the values of open democracy and individual liberty. They were very much threatened by an expanding Russia, above all, in 1975. And they're still threatened by Russia today, but also China and other authoritarian regimes.
Britain also invited foreign ministers from Australia, India, South Africa and South Korea to the talks, a demonstration of London's focus on the Indo-Pacific region.
So what we are seeing is the birth of a broader democratic family. And if they're willing to put their country's name on paper alongside the Democratic Seven, the G7 itself, that will be an even more powerful signal.
G7 foreign ministers also discussed a coordinated response to the military coup in Myanmar and the violent crackdown on pro-democracy protests, and the US and NATO pullout from Afghanistan, which began this month.
Making sure that we preserve the ability to deal with counterterrorism, that the gains that were hard won in Afghanistan are not lost, and also ultimately promoting dialogue and a peace process that benefits all Afghans.
Meanwhile, campaigners are calling on the G7 to ensure that poorer countries get access to coronavirus vaccines. The United Nations says close to 90% of all vaccines administered worldwide have gone to richer nations. The response to the pandemic will be a focus when Britain hosts the G7 Leaders Summit in June, set to be Joe Biden's first overseas visit as US President. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
In our tech news, a Nigerian startup, Zen Finance, uses decentralized finance to address currency devaluation. It gives credit unions and cooperatives access to the global money market to save and invest in stable currencies such as the US dollar, backed by Binance, Google Launchpad. Sand Binance is the first decentralized finance smart chain built company to launch out of Africa. For more insight, Africa 54 tech correspondent Paul Ndiho via Skype spoke to Aronu Ugochukwu, CEO and co-founder of Zand Finance, which is based in Enugu State, Nigeria.
Ugo Aronu, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Paul. Very fine.
You run one of the most interesting fintech companies in Nigeria. Tell me a little bit more about Zen Finance.
Zen Finance is a platform, right, for credit unions and for cooperatives that enables these institutions or individuals, right, to earn very high yields or APYs, annual percentage yields, in stable currencies. And the currencies are pegged to the US dollar. So it means that once they convert their currencies to the US dollar on our platform, we now enable them earn very high yields, up to 15% or even more in US dollars annually.
When you talk about enable them to get higher yields or higher returns, what do you mean exactly?
What we do is we convert the local currency to a stable cryptocurrency, right? That stable cryptocurrency is accepted into our platform. Now, when it's accepted into our platform or deposited into our platform, what happens is there is a wider market or a huge market where different people or organizations borrow funds or lend funds to the crypto market. So because of the lending and borrowing going on, interests are being generated, right? Just like when you want to borrow funds, right? You pay an interest. So what we do is we take all the funds we've collected on our system and we deposit it on our platform and allow other people to borrow. When they borrow, they pay at an interest. And it's that interest that is now transferred to the customer or to the user of our platform. That is how they earn their yields. And the great thing about this is there is no middleman involved, right? Because in the traditional system, this has to be done by people or bankers, people sitting at desks and all that. But now everything is managed programmatically on the blockchain. So you don't need to bother yourselves about maybe people not paying back their loans. No, everything is automatically managed on the blockchain using things called smart contracts.
You talk about something very complex here. You talk about getting people's finances, put them on a blockchain or convert them into a cryptocurrency. The people that you're talking about, the people who you are targeting, most of them have no clue what a cryptocurrency is, what blockchain is. And the risks are even higher when you're dealing with cryptocurrencies because there's a lot of volatility. So how can you assure those people, the small guys, who are trying to use your services, that their money is secure?
Being able to convert the local currency to stable cryptocurrency. So by stable cryptocurrency, I mean it is pegged or it has the same value as the US dollar. When you convert, for example, 100,000 naira or 100,000 Kenyan shillings to US dollar or to the stable currency, it remains that amount. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. Our job is to educate them on how to use the platform, which is very simple and seamless, and of course, ensure them that their funds are secure. For the security of our platform, there are things called audits. So companies, businesses undergo audits, right, by accounting firms or consulting firms. Zen Finance is not an exception. So we have different people that have audited the code to ensure that it is safe for people to put their funds and that the code is doing what it says it will do.
How big is the blockchain or Bitcoin? How are people using that in Nigeria?
From all indications, and say, for example, I meet 10 people today, I can tell you that at least 5 of them have heard of crypto, or 5 of them are thinking about investing in crypto. Nigeria is the second highest trader of Bitcoin in the world, right? Number 1 is the United States. So you realize that Nigerians are really adopting cryptocurrency, and it's a great thing, yeah.
Well, Ugo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Paul. It was a great session.
That was Africa 54 tech correspondent Paul Ndiho speaking to Aronu Ugochukwu, CEO and co-founder of Zen Finance based in Enugu State, Nigeria. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.